Okay, we're going to continue on in the Apocrypha. This is the first book of Esdras, chapter 5, verse 36. And these are those who went up with Telmiah and Tarhasha under the leadership of Cherub, Adan, and Immer, but were not able to show by their families or lineage what they belonged in Israel. The descendants of Delilah, the descendants of Tobiah, descendants of Nekoda, 652. And those of the priests who had assumed the priesthood were not found registered. The descendants of Hababiah, the descendants of Hazazaz, the descendants of Jaddas, who married Ajah, one of the daughters of Barzillai, and was called by his name. And when the ancestry of these men were looked for in the register and could not be found, they were excluded from officiating as priests. And Nehemiah and the governor told them they are not to share in the consecrated things until a high priest could appear clothed in the manifestation and the truth. And all there were of Israel over 12 years of age, besides male and female slaves, 42,360. Of their male and female slaves, 7,337. Of musicians and singers, 245. And there were 435 camels, 7,036 horses, 245 mules, and 5,525 asses. And some of the principal heads of the families, when they reached the temple of God in Jerusalem, vowed that they would erect the house in its old place to the best of their ability, and they would give to the sacred building a fund of 1,000 minas of gold and 5,000 minas of silver and 100 priests' garments. So the priests and the Levites and some of the people settled in Jerusalem and the country, and the sacred singers and the doorkeepers and all Israel came, and the Israelites were all at home. They gathered as one man in the square in front of the first gate toward the east, and Jeshua, the son of Zodak, and his brothers, the priests, and Zerubbabel, and prepared the altar of the God of Israel in order to offer it on burnt offerings, as it is directed in the book of Moses and the man of God. And they were joined by some of the other peoples of the land, and they erected the altar in its place, for though they had been hostile to them, all the people in the land supported them and brought sacrifices at the proper times, and the morning and evening burnt offerings for the Lord. And they kept the camping out festival as it is prescribed in the law, and they brought sacrifices every day when it was proper, and besides these the regular offerings and sacrifices on Sabbaths and new moons and all the sacred festival days. And all who had made the voluntary gifts to God began to offer sacrifices to God, beginning with the new moon and the 7th month, though the temple of God was not yet rebuilt. And they paid money to the masons and the carpenters, and gave food and drink in carts to the Sidonians and the Tyronians, to bring cedar timbers from the Lebanon and to convey them in rafts to the harbor of Joppa, as Cyrus the king of Persia had commanded them in writing. In the 2nd year, Zerubbabel, the son of Santiel, came to the temple of God in Jerusalem, and in the 2nd month he began with Jeshua, the son of Jozac, and their brothers, and the Levitical priest, and all who had come back from the exile to Jerusalem. And they laid the foundation of the temple of God on the new moon of the 2nd month in the 2nd year, after they came to Judah and Jerusalem. And they appointed the Levites, who were over 20 years old, to have charge of the work of the Lord. And Jeshua rose up, and his sons and his brothers, and Kadmiel his brother, and the sons of Jeshua, Emandabun, and the sons of Jodah, and the sons of Ideladun, with the sons and brothers of all the Levites, as one man pressing forward the work on the house of God. And the builders built the sanctuary of the Lord, and the priests stood in their robes with musical instruments and trumpets, and the Levites and the sons of Asaph with their cymbals, praising the Lord and blessing him according to the directions of David, king of Israel. And they sang loudly, giving thanks to the Lord with hymns, because all Israel enjoys his goodness and his glory forever. And all the people sounded trumpets and great shout, praising the Lord for the erection of the house of the Lord. And some of the Levitical priests and the older men along the heads of their families, who had seen the house that preceded this one, came to the building of the house with outcries and loud lamentation, while many came with trumpets and a great shout of joy, so that the people could not hear the trumpets on account of the lamentations, for the multitude sounded the trumpets loudly, so that it was heard in a long way off. And when the enemies of the tribe of Judah and Benjamin heard it, they came out to find out what the sound of the trumpets meant. And they learned that those who had returned from the captivity were building the sanctuary for the Lord, the God of Israel. And they went to Zerubbabel and Jeshua and the heads of the families and said to them, "We will help you build, for we, like you, obey your Lord and have sacrificed to him from the days of Esarhaddon, king of Syria, who brought us here." Then Zerubbabel and Jeshua and the heads of the families of Israel said to them, "It is not for you and us to build the house of the Lord our God, for we will build it ourselves for the Lord of Israel, as Cyrus the king of Persia has commanded us." But the heathen of the land pressed upon those who were in Judah and blockaded them, hindering them from building, and by making plots and stirring up the people and uprisings, they prevented the completion of the building all the lifetime of King Cyrus. So they were kept from building for 2 years until the reign of Darius. But in the 2nd year of the reign of Darius, the prophets Haggai and Zechariah, the son of Iddo, prophesied to the Jews who were in Judea and Jerusalem, prophesying to them in the name of the Lord, the God of Israel. Then Zerubbabel, the son of Santiel, and Jeshua, the son of Zodakah, got up and began to build the house of the Lord that was in Jerusalem, while the prophets of the Lord joined them and helped them. At that very time there came to them Sisines, the governor of Syria and Phoenicia, and Sartharbuzanes, and their companions, and said to them, "By whose orders are you building this house and completing this roof and all these other things? And who are the builders who are carrying this out?" Still the elders of the Jews were shown favor, for the Lord had regarded their captives, and they were not prevented from building until Darius was informed about them and orders were issued. This is a copy of a letter from Sisines, the governor of Syria and Phoenicia, and Sartharbuzanes and their companions wrote and sent to Darius. "Greetings to King Darius. Let it be known to our Lord the King that when we went to the country of Judea and entered the city of Jerusalem, we found the elders of the Jews who had been in captivity building in the city of Jerusalem a great new house for the Lord of costly hewn stone, with timbers set in the walls, and we found this work proceeding with haste, and the undertaking prospering in their hands, and being completed with all glory and diligence.